Thank you, Ali. A few people have found that the way to fame and riches is to conduct the crowds of their mouth-breather fans to smash the place up while they relax in comfort at home with a glass of something expensive. So why do some people with the IQ of a bath tap travel from hundreds of miles away to make a political point by throwing a brick through a shop window and setting a car alight? Because it's fun, and they're easily led. They're stupid and gullible. What a combination. That and more coming up with me, Nick Abbott, after the new news at 10 on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hello. Well, let's get back to it.
We are going to go to our reporter on the scene in Sunderland shortly, but first, a judge has rebuked blasé Just Stop Oil protesters as he jailed them for an M25 blockade, which caused 50,000 hours of delays. Judge Shane told the defendants as he handed down the sentences that their behaviour was disproportionate to their aims. This was a fortnight after Just Stop Oil co-founder Roger Hallam was given a 5-year prison term. Judge Shane said it was easy to be blasé when it's not your life that's being disrupted, as he gave 2-year sentences to George Simonson, 24, and 26-year-old Teresa Higginson. Paul Bell, 24, jailed for a year and 10 months. Gay Delap, 77, and 73-year-old Paul Susek were jailed for 1 year and 8 months. The judge told Delap, "Age, I regret, has not brought wisdom." Meanwhile, in the real world, money trumps age and wisdom, as the effects of the thing that those people were protesting about are seen wherever you look. And the consequences of brushing people's concerns under the carpet and into the prison wing will make a hold-up on the M25 look like heaven. Because unless you're looking on Twitter or Facebook, where you'll see mouth-breathing know-nothings shouting at actual scientists that there is no such thing as climate change, and they shout not because they have any information or really believe what they're saying. They just do it to own the libs, because they've taken a side and all of their opinions are now being made for them. It's like you join a group and give over all your thinking to that group on any issue. But in the real world, Jaguar Land Rover is among a string of luxury car makers to be hit by major disruption. I can only dream of driving in a luxury car. The flooding was in Switzerland and paralysed a top aluminium producer. And now they ain't got nothing to make their cars with. Jaguar Land Rover is scrambling to find alternative suppliers, but then so is Porsche, BMW and Mercedes. It followed heavy rainfall and a subsequent flooding in parts of central London. And in the real world, Adele's concert plans have been called into question after the singer was forced to cancel the final dress rehearsal for her Munich concert after reports of fierce thunderstorms and heavy rain. And in the Financial Times was this, about how, on climate change, it doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not, it's going to affect you anyway. It said last Monday was the Earth's hottest day on record, according to both the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service and NASA. The effects of climate change are conspicuous in the soaring price of insurance coverage, or the lack of it, facing a growing number of households and businesses. There have been some ugly numbers coming from the insurance sector of late, says the Financial Times. US home insurers hit by a rash of extreme weather events last year suffered their worst net underwriting loss of the century. And you know what that's going to cause? Higher prices. The share performance of the big insurance companies in this sector has been great, though. But these bullish share numbers are not necessarily a reassuring sign for society at large. Investors are cheering insurers for rolling out, they're not rather cheering insurers for rolling out affordable coverage. They're rewarding them for becoming increasingly selective in the coverage they offer and charging significantly higher prices for it, in an effort to avoid big losses from climate change in the future. And you'll be paying those higher prices whether you believe in climate change or not. Meanwhile, in our world, this weekend is set to be sunny and warm for many parts of the UK. highs around 25 degrees centigrade, which look set to continue into the next week too. And it comes after thunderstorms hit England last night and people in the southeast saw more rain than Noah. We're going to need a bigger boat. Make it a submarine. The average total rainfall for the entire month of August fell in a few hours last night. It was spectacular. This weekend, sunny tomorrow, pleasantly warm, largely dry on Sunday. Listeners in Glasgow will get their own weather. I don't need to check it because I know what the... Well, OK, I will do then. If you insist. Aha! It is raining at the moment in Glasgow. Don't call me to tell me it isn't, because it is. It will not be raining, however, tomorrow, if you can believe that. It'll be raining on Sunday, and raining on Monday, and raining on Tuesday, and raining on Thursday. Wow. Every day for the rest of your lives. Oh, well, never mind. That's Glasgow, though. Would you like to hear the forecast for the next 4 weeks for the rest of us? First half of August, frequent bouts of rain and wind in the north. Further to the south, settled weather. Though with the potential for thunder, lightning, very, very frightening. That's the first half of August. Second half of August. The end of summer. Blimey, it's come around fast. It could be settled, or it could be unsettled. They just don't know. But temperatures throughout the period of the second half of August are favoured to be above average for most areas. Temperatures throughout the period are favoured to be above average for most areas. We'll take it. Meanwhile, it's warmer than it should be in Sunderland. Sunderland police station has been ransacked and set on fire because morons. Protesters have taken to the streets of Britain. And we have our man on the scene. Chris Chambers joins us from there now. Is our LBC correspondent. Hello, Chris.
Good evening, Nick. Very tense here in Liverpool earlier on, but fortunately nothing more than the odd skirmish between far-right protesters and counter-protesters. I'll come to that in just a moment, but unfortunately in Sunderland, things have really kicked off there. Police saying they've been subjected to serious violence. And we've only seen the images we're getting online and from live streaming there. The large crowds of people appear to have been involved in scuffles with the police. A car has been overturned, on fire as well. And we know, as you just mentioned there, a police station well on fire as well. We can see lots of images of people, they're gathering, involved in scuffles, and generally very similar to the scenes that we saw on Tuesday night in Southport in response to those sad deaths in Southport on Monday. Mounted police officers and riot gear clashing with protesters in Sunderland this evening. Thousands of people taking to the streets to make their feelings known. And we've seen footage of men kicking what appeared to be an Uber as they shouted anti-Islamic chants. Northumbria police have advised members of the public to avoid Sunderland city centre altogether due to what they say is ongoing disorder. We've also heard chants like "We want our country back" and "Whose street? Our street," with people walking around in balaclavas. So some ugly scenes at the moment. But things in Liverpool have been much calmer, fortunately. I was here from around 7 o'clock. We had a couple of hundred people turn up from all backgrounds to essentially protect the Abdullah Kilian Mosque, which is the oldest mosque in the country. It appears we could see a repeat of what happened in Southport on Tuesday. Various messages have been doing the rounds on social media, encouraging members of the far right to come here and protest, but really only a small number actually came, many of them, teenagers and children who were here just to see what was going on, I think. They were far outnumbered by those who were here to protect the mosque, and among those out here tonight, we had MPs, local councillors and members of all different community groups here to very much protect the mosque and make sure that we didn't see the scenes that we saw earlier in the week. It was good-natured for the most part. There was the odd skirmish where we saw a coming together, which the police quickly intercepted, and a line was drawn by the police between those protesting and the counter-protesters looking after the mosque. But for the most part, things have been okay here. We know there are protest plans all around the country, and we're starting to see those. But certainly in a Liverpool perspective, things have been okay tonight. But the situation in Sunderland is alarming. We're seeing fires, we're seeing that police station on fire, we're seeing people involved in skirmishes and serious disorder. And obviously we know that may well continue.
Thanks very much, Chris. That's Chris Chambers, LBC's Northwest correspondent, Chris Chambers. The phone number here, 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850, email nicka@lbc.co.uk, and if you are on Twitter, it's @LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet @LBC. Text 84850.
So this is from The Guardian today. It says Nigel Farage is giving This is from The Guardian today. It says Nigel Farage is giving legitimacy to violent protesters and excusing disorder that police chiefs fear will continue into the weekend. So says a Metro Mayor, Steve Rotherham, the Metro Mayor of Liverpool. At least 19 far-right rallies are being planned across England in the coming days, The Guardian understands. One of the UK's most senior police officers has said preparations are in place for what could be considerable disorder over the weekend. Well, we're there already. There have been violent demonstrations in Southport, London, Hartlepool and Aldershot since the stabbings in Southport on Monday. Police officers have been hospitalised after they were attacked by bricks and other missiles. Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't the people who were throwing the bricks and the missiles saying that the police officers were quite right when they kicked that bloke in the head in the airport and then stamped on him? Give him a medal, they said, just before deciding that we should disregard anything they've said on the matter and started throwing bricks at the very same people. Well, don't look for any meaning behind their thinking, because they don't do too much of that. Police officers have been hospitalised after being attacked by bricks and other missiles. Property has been destroyed, cars set alight, local people have been terrified. Yeah, because very few of these people are actually locals. They travel from hundreds of miles away to shout, "Whose street? Our street." It's not your street. Your street's currently deserted. And Farage, the recently elected MP for Clacton, released a video on Thursday evening in which he said he did not support street violence, but he said what you've seen on the streets of Hartlepool, of London, of Southport is nothing to what could happen over the course of the next few weeks. But when he said it, he was bookended on screen by 2 Union Jack flags. So that proves he's patriotic and only has the interests of this country at heart. Never thinks of himself, our Nige, tirelessly working for the interests of the good people of Clacton. Has he been there since he was elected their MP? Could he find Clacton without the aid of a sat-nav? Are you, voters of Clacton, happy with your choice? Is he everything you thought he would be?
Yes.
Yeah, and you voted for him anyway. Well done. And if you can't get to see him in person in the office in Clacton that I am sure that he has rented to conduct his surgery there, you could always pay $40,000 for a table for 9 at an event that he will be speaking at in Chicago, which is a short 10-hour flight from Clacton at an event with ties to the people that wrote the Trump Project 2025 manifesto called How to Stage a Coup for Dummies. And the Metro Mayor of Liverpool City Region, Steve Rotherham, he said, whilst senior politicians like... senior politician? I don't know. Can we describe him as a senior politician? Ken Clarke's a senior politician. Nigel Farage? I don't think so. He says, whilst senior politicians like Farage should be condemning these people, he's not. He's excusing them. He's giving them some legitimacy to go out and perpetrate some of these acts. No, Uncle Nige is just asking questions. I mean, I don't know what the weather that we've had this summer up to last week, whether it was the fault of Nigel Farage expelling vast amounts of noxious hot air. I just think it's a reasonable question to ask. Why is the government not telling us who is releasing huge clouds of fetid, stale gas whenever Nigel Farage is about? It could be him. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Gavin Stevens, the chair of the Chief National Police Chiefs Council, that's way too many chiefs, he said forces were preparing for what could be considerable disorder over the weekend. Disorder caused by let's be honest, people having fun. It's exciting. That's why they do it. It's like a picnic day out, except the picnic is a six-pack of lager and the ball games are played with bricks. And it's a thrill being part of a gang because you feel safer than if you take on the police or a passerby all on your own. And because of certain bellicose grifters that have turned the gas under this pot up to high, the people in those crowds can feel a sense of superiority while they're doing it. Talk about a win-win. They get to vent their thought, act like they could never get away with ordinarily, you know, like a toddler having a tantrum, and feel like they're claiming the moral high ground while they're doing it. What larks, eh? Neil Basu, a former head of counter-terrorism policing, said on the Today programme that Farage should think very carefully about the power of his words. Yeah, he does. But that's not what you meant. He said he was predicting a long, hot summer for police forces. Neil Basu, former head of counter-terrorism policing, says that is a far-right politician once again trying to direct policing and law and order. He doesn't speak for tens of millions of people. The Prime Minister does, who has to serve the whole population, not just the ones he likes. I would question whether Nigel Farage actually likes the people that he stirs up. I don't know that he does. I don't know that he hates them. I just think that we should be told. I'm just asking the questions. And this is not the first time a politician has tried to interfere with operational policing, particularly from that section of politics, said Neil Basu, former head of counter-terrorism policing. And, you know, this is playing out on both sides of the Atlantic. The same people are making the same claims. Immigrant crime wave, they're invading us. It's all the fault of the left.
Boo!
It's the blooming wokerati. That is...
Okie dokie.
Wokey cokey. It's bizarre that you could predict precisely what politicians of a certain stripe are going to say in this country based on what politicians of a certain stripe said last week in America. They're the same blooming people. I suspect it's the same blooming money. It's a handful of freakish James Bond villain billionaires who are sitting back conducting all these mouth-breathing knuckle-draggers, finding it really quite hard to believe how gullible some people are, I bet they're thinking. I mean, not out loud. Not in public, anyway. But that's what they're thinking. And, you know, we get fearful of the crime wave because the news is on 24 hours a day. And the thing about news is the first three letters, new, has to be new. And if you're doing a 24-hour-a-day news channel, then the search for new gets a bit desperate. Especially if it's got some exciting pictures to it, then you're going to run that footage over and over and over again. And so you get this sort of dystopian message of constant chaos and anarchy coming at you all the time. And people of a certain stripe, they keep telling you, we're being invaded. The reason that your life is not as delightful as you thought it might be is because of those people over there. That small, identifiable minority of people that don't quite look, talk, walk and squawk like we do. But the thing is, crime isn't going up. It's not anarchy and chaos out there. Crime's actually going down. Compared with 2022, the estimates for individual types of crime showed that last year, criminal damage decreased by 28%. Fraud went down by 13%. Computer misuse went down by 33%. The number of homicides decreased by 10%. Robbery offences, 14% lower than the year ending March 2020. Offences using knives, 7% lower than March 2020. That's according to the Crime Survey for England and Wales. Estimates for the year ending June 2023, people aged 16 years and over experienced 8.4 million offences, which sounds like a lot, but it was 10% down compared on the previous year. Crime isn't going up. And there is little or no connection between migrants and crime, despite what some professional stirrers would have you believe. One of the many studies that have looked into this, I'll just mention one. 2015, a study found that the increase in immigration flows into Western European countries that took place in the 2000s did not affect crime victimisation, by which they mean there wasn't any more crime. But it is associated with an increase in the fear of crime, the latter being consistently and positively correlated with the natives. In other words, the people who were born here. So it's not the crime that you need to be concerned about. It's the people telling you that there's more crime, and it's all their fault. Those are the people you should be concerned about. People who wear balaclavas to march down somebody else's street saying, whose street? Our street. They're the problem. They're not the solution. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Carnforth. Hey up, Annie.
Hey up, Nick. How you doing?
Great, mate.
Good, good. Actually, I was going to ring you up about something completely different, but we'll go on to this topic now. Yeah, I mean, I think always when there's a sort of a real downturn in economies, like there has been all over the Western world, really, after the banking crash, and since then, and people's standard of living has been going down and all the rest of it, you get the right-wing media and right-wing politicians just scapegoating immigrants, don't you? And so, you know, it puts it into people's heads that all these things that are wrong with society, like, you know, we don't have enough houses and this, that and the other, oh, well, it's because there's too many immigrants. Whereas in actual fact, it's because successive governments haven't built enough houses. It's nothing to do with immigrants. And we need immigrants anyway because there's a shortage of labour. I mean, places like the Lake District, they're desperate for people to work in hospitality because so many people from the EU used to work there and now don't. So, you know, it's easy for politicians. And it's not just people like Nigel Farage either, is it? I mean, it's mainstream. Well, I suppose you could call him mainstream now. He's sort of an MP, which is laughable, really. But, I mean, yeah, mainstream politicians like Tory ones like Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, but even Labour have kind of started muttering on about immigration, haven't they? Before the election, they were talking about, oh, we're going to stop the boats too. You know, we're getting rid of Rwanda, but we're going to stop the boats. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And, you know, the people coming over on the boats are just a fraction of the immigrants that come here perfectly legally every year.
Yeah, it's about 40,000 compared to over 1 million who waltz through Heathrow or any other airport with permission in their hands.
That's right, because we need them to work, because we're not even reproducing ourselves as a nation. I don't know how people, you know, who people think is going to do the work. I mean, for example, the care industry, there's 140,000 shortage of carers. I know it's badly paid and all the rest of it. Well, not all carers, I have to say. Actually, our carers are paid quite well, but then you pay an absolute premium if you use an agency that pays their carers a bit better. But, yeah, you know, there's all sorts of industries, hospitality, agriculture, loads of industries that are just desperate for workers. So we need immigrants unless British people are suddenly going to want to pick strawberries or...
Yeah, no, they won't any more than they'll
turnips up.
Yeah, they'll want families of 10 children in order to rebalance this massive aging population problem that we have. They don't want to do that either, and I can understand the latter and the former. But you know, until they make a robot that's capable of picking strawberries, then we're going to need a human being to do it.
Exactly. So, you know, all this scapegoating immigrants, it's just a way of deflecting what's really going on. You know, the fact that...
I think it just comes down to money. I think that the people who are orchestrating this are a handful of James Bond villain-type billionaires who are orchestrating this precise thing on both sides of the Atlantic. It's the same people. And the coincidental figure for the amount of wealth that has been created in the last 2 years 60% of all of the wealth created by all of us on Earth, 60% of it has gone to 1% of the population. 60% of all of the wealth created over the past 2 years has gone to 1% of the world's population. Everybody else, 99% of the world's population who actually created this wealth by working in factories or working on the phone or driving a bus or whatever it is, all of these things are vitally important for the creation of wealth. It's not just the chief executive officer with the conductor's baton in his office suite. It's all of the people beneath him that make it possible. And none of them have shared in the wealth that they've created, which is why everything's more expensive, because there's way more billionaires than there ever were, and they're all competing with each other to buy the nice stuff. And the decent jobs are few and far between, because they manage to co-opt politicians in order for them to make the regulations about work placement conditions preferable to those who own the means of production. So we're all doing going nowhere jobs for minimum wage. We're getting nowhere. We can't buy a place because they bought all the places, and you can't compete with that kind of money. And you can barely afford your rent because you're paying essentially the same people who can jack up the rent to anything they like, pretty much, because there'll always be somebody able to pay it. And that's the reason why people are out of sorts, because their lives have been taken away from them. They work as many hours as they possibly can, and they still can't get by. And the reason, you could blame the people whose fault it is above you on the ladder, but who are they? It's very, very difficult. And apart from anything else, they're the ones who are in charge of the world's media. They control social media and the traditional media, the TV news stations in America and so on. So you could try and blame them, but who are they? The amount of the downward pressure coming from the top to blame somebody else but them is enormous, and they can spend any amount of money to distract you and point you in the wrong direction. Much, much easier to just go with the flow and blame the people beneath you on the ladder. They're pulling you down, which is the opposite of the truth, but, we're in a post-truth world now, baby. It's all about feelings now, Annie.
It certainly is, and they're very successful at it, aren't they? The billionaires that own the media, they make sure that the stuff in all the papers, really, bar one or two, they've all got very anti-immigrant articles and stuff, so that people are constantly thinking that these people are the problem. These people are why, I haven't got a decent job, why I haven't got a house.
Yeah, and the reason that they're anti-immigrant is because they know that sells. I mean, they could write nice news and they could write truthful things, but nobody's going to pick up a newspaper that's got something nice and truthful on the front. They're going to pick up a newspaper that's got the word hate written in red, with a picture of some outrage underneath it. That's what sells. That's what makes money. And that's what it's all about. Shamefully. I don't predict a good future for the human race. I think we've had our chance and we blew it. Thanks a lot, Annie. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC. It's just past 10:30. The news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
Oh, it's about people being patriotic. We're patriotic. Dean says, nice to know the Patriots are smashing our own citizens' property up. Yeah, well, don't try to understand it. There's nothing really to understand. It's a temper tantrum, essentially. A temper tantrum with extra violence. It's fun. It's a fun day out for these people. It's exciting. That's why they're doing it. Have they thought about the issues? And compared and contrasted both sides, written down in a couple of lists? No, of course they haven't. You've just charged out the house. We're having a party. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. Springfield, Oregon. Andrew.
Hi there.
Hello there.
Hi, Nick. I haven't heard your show before. This is it's an entertaining way to take this news, because it's not great news, but...
Well, it's not. This show's not normally like this.
Okay. I phoned in because I'm finding it just... The levels of irony from the right-wingers, they're absolutely amazing. These are the people who complain about burqas now wearing balaclavas to riots, to throw stuff at the police. I just went through the whole of the Wikipedia on Dunblane. Not one mention of the race of the guy. Not a single mention.
No.
No, amazing. And, read about what happened afterwards. No riots, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like amazing sort of duality to this.
Well, I think you're trying to get into their minds. I think that you will find if you do manage to do that, then it's just it's an echoing silence in there. There is no thought. Don't look for meaning behind any of this, because there isn't any.
Well, I phoned in because I find it ironic as well that what's his name, Tommy Robinson, that he was actually arrested and kicked out. He's an illegal immigrant himself, tried to illegally immigrate to the U.S. or illegally enter the U.S. in 2013 on someone else's passport. And so he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder over all of that. I think people should mention that to him a bit more. But you're talking about all the number of rich people there, the 1% wealth thing. I'm going, I live in Oregon, and there's plenty of people in America that are straight up normal, but we got this weird group that you've all noticed. Don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
And they seem to be led by these oligarch wannabes. These American business leaders, some of them, not all of them, there's some are like pay taxes and do all the rest of it, but some of them are just like, oh yeah, they just seem to envy the Russian oligarch. It's like power they have.
They're irritated
money.
by the rules and the regulations that are keeping them from being as successful as they would like to be, which is kind of bizarre. I mean, it does indicate to me a certain, how should I call it, mental illness, that if you are already worth tens, if not hundreds of billions of pounds, with all the power that comes with that, that's not enough for you. What kind of people are they?
You've got them, but you've got the people following over here that, you don't mention these end-timers, but they're real.
Well, I spent a month in Oregon in a place called, and you can only say this with an American accent, because it doesn't sound right when you say it with an English accent, so I'll do it. A place called Grants Pass.
Grants Pass, yep.
You know it?
Oh, yeah. Grants Pass, it's in southern Oregon. It's as right-wing as Oregon can get.
Yeah, it's good old boys coming down from the mountain where they live, and with a pickup truck with 3 or 4 rifles behind them in their cab, and they'll go into the supermarket and load up with survival provisions, beef jerky and things in cans and that sort of thing. And while they're in there...
but Nick, the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming tomorrow.
While they're in there, they can load up on weaponry and bullets, because the same supermarket that sells you peaches will also sell you an AR-15 in Oregon. That's what that place is like. I loved it, though, by the way. One of the cleanest places I've ever been in my life. It was beautiful.
It is beautiful. There's a reason why I have stayed here. It is generally the countryside, but you know that if you've been here.
What kind of a phone are you talking to us on, by the way, Andrew? I just must ask you this before I forget.
Oh, a landline.
A landline. There you are, you see. Perfection. You're talking to me from 6,000 miles away. It sounds like you're next door. Meanwhile, the next call I take will probably be from next door, and I won't be able to hear a single word they say. But excellent work there, Andrew. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Wasn't he coming through clear as a bell? Oregon, you believe that? This anonymous text says, when we have riots, we should record everything, then prosecute all of them, money well spent. And it's written in 4 lines. Is that a haiku? When we have riots, we should record everything, then prosecute all of them, Money well spent. That's poetic. I mean, when you see it written down, it really does look like poetry. Like one of those things that you see on the poster on the tube. But it doesn't rhyme, though. Never mind. Can't have everything, I suppose. Martin says, a simple observation, British patriots do not kick down the walls of their fellow British citizens in order to provide the ammunition to attack the British police. Well, I think that sounds about right to me. That's not what patriots do. Kick down the walls of their fellow British citizens in order to provide them ammunition to attack the British police. It doesn't sound very patriotic. Yeah, well, we want our country back. Yeah, I want my country back. I want my country back from those people. Why can't they go back to where they came from, wherever the hell that might be? Or we could fashion themselves as somewhere to go. You know, build a I don't know. Is anybody using Alcatraz? A beautiful island off the coast of somewhere scenic. We could put them all, and they could spend all day long wrapping themselves in flags, and sharing their opinions, and we'd be rid of them. We would have our country back. How does that sound? Exeter. Hello, Robert.
Hi,
Robert.
Hi. Thank you. First time listening to the show, and I agree with almost everything you've said, apart from one thing, and that's that you referred to these people as protesters. But
did I?
If you look at the comments that's online, they're very clearly going there with not the intention of protesting. They're going there with the intention of causing damage, of having a fight, and of dividing communities. And these are not, I'm fundamentally believe in the right to protest, whether I agree with it or not.
Now you're calling them protesters.
Well, see, this is the point I'm trying to make. I'm on the left. I remember the Countryside Alliance protesting when fox hunting was banned. They were going there to make a point, to have a march, and that was a protest. When you go somewhere with the sole intention of starting a fight, of trying to burn down a mosque, or attacking the police, that isn't a protest. That is an act of criminality. It's an act of, I don't want to use the word terrorism. I think we when you get into that sort of language, it's counterintuitive, counterproductive.
Right. I think we can make it much more simple than this, Robert. They're just out having fun. That's what this is. It's exciting. That's why they're doing it. It's practically their yearly holiday. They'll get on a bus or a train, go somewhere they're unfamiliar with because they've read online that that's where a lot of people with the same mindset are going, and they'll get bevied up, and within the comfort and security of a crowd, they can then yell at coppers or whoever it might be that takes their eye, who happens to be passing. It's just an amusement.
Yeah, of course. I think some of them have been waiting on this moment for years, haven't they? I mean, we've seen.
Well, you can't normally get away with it in ordinary life. You used to be able to get away with it when you went to the football, and that's why they would pick fights with people at football, because it was exciting. You can do it as an individual in a pub, and of course that happens all the time, because somebody spilt your drink. Are you really that offended that you want to make a deal out of it? No, not really, but it's exciting. So that's why they're doing it. I mean, let's not read anything else into it. It's not a political movement. It's a movement of gullible morons who are being orchestrated by people who are laughing at them as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's not a protest, and that's the point. It's not just you, of course. It's the whole media. It's the language that we use when we see people going out. We see it as a protest, but that isn't what it is. And the sooner we actually call it out for what it is, so which you're doing a good job. Let's not get carried away, Robert. I mean, good. That seems a bit over the top. I'm doing an okay job. Can we agree on that? Yeah. Well, I'll give you that one.
Okay. All right. Well, end on a moment of concord. How's that? There you are. You see, you can get along. Just takes a bit of effort. That's all. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
hello.
0345 6060 973. Steve texts, completely changed my mind about Rwanda, reinstate the flights and send all these morons there. I don't know, that's pretty offensive, morons. But it is completely correct in every respect. What's actually surprising, and shocking, actually, is you get to hear people that you would ordinarily spend a lifetime avoiding. You'd cross the street just to avoid going past them. And there they are on TV being introduced to express their thought. And they'll put the Molotov cocktail down for a moment because, somebody is asking them their opinion on something. And before they speak, you think, well, this isn't going to go well. And a reporter will ask them, a question like they asked Marlon Brando in The Wild Ones. I can't remember precisely what the wording was. Was it, what are you protesting about? And he says, what do you got? And that's basically it in a nutshell. So, why are you here today? Well, it's like, we're Britain. I see. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Well, it's like Britain. And that's about as far as you get. And you think, God, how do they, survive in the wild? I mean, I can understand if there was some sort of human zoo and they were, I suppose, prison. To some extent, prison is what I'm about to describe. A place where, you get kept and tended to and fed regularly. I mean, you can't get out of a zoo or prison, ordinarily. But outside of that, you think, how are these people getting on in life? I mean, what exactly is it that they do for a living? That they can't express themselves in words? Or really, in actions? Who are they? And how is it that there's so many of them? Morons. We're surrounded by morons. And if you took all of the morons and you sent them back to where they came from, or you fashioned some floating palace, let's make it a palace. Some floating palace for them to live in, which they can, smash up as they see fit. And we were left without them, but with the people who had come here from other countries in order to work and make a life, then this country would instantly be better. I'm not saying it would be 100% better. I'm not saying it would be nirvana. But it would be considerably better than it is at the moment. Darren says, Nick, have you been enjoying the Olympics? And did you see the story with Elon Musk wanting to fight the Prime Minister of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro? I mean, talking about weird, what is it with Elon Musk? Crazy name, crazy guy. And how many people is that now that he has said he wants to fight? And how many people has he actually fought? 0. He said he wanted to fight that moon-faced creep who runs Facebook, didn't he? Zuckerberg. And then the information must have come through to Elon Musk's people that Mark Zuckerberg is an actual cage fighter. Now, I don't know how seriously a billionaire would actually open himself up to being hit in the face a lot by an actual cage fighter, but he does it, and he's, he's like a top kung fu expert or something like that. And podgy Elon Musk, to the surprise of absolutely no one at all, didn't fight him. Curious. Maybe they couldn't negotiate their diaries. They just didn't have a window. Elon Musk. I mean, explain him to me. I double dare you. Rachel texts, Farage is an agitator. Yeah, not an alligator, an agitator. Yeah, see you later, agitator.
I'm a nutcase.
Yeah. Where is he? Has he gone back to America yet? Or did he actually come back? Oh, he came back to do a video of him being bookended by 2 Union Jack flags, didn't he? Like he's the president of Britain. Where's that studio that he had that set up? Is it in Clacton? I bet every single penny I've got on me right now it's not in Clacton. Has he been to Clacton since he became their representative? Doubtful. How's he working out for you so far, you good people at Clacton?
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, they're delighted. They couldn't be happier. Glasgow. Hello, Craig.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, these riots are just mental. It's madness. It's, I mean, there's I suppose a slight irony that they're supposedly rioting against people coming from somewhere else to commit crimes on the streets of a place they're not from, whilst themselves travelling from somewhere else to commit crimes in the streets of a place they're not from.
That's right.
But it's, now look at Farage's video today, and that's part of the problem. He just pours petrol on the fire, and when he's sitting there at his desk, these Union Jacks behind him, it was like Joe Biden giving an address from the president's office. Who does he think he is?
I know.
It's mental, and
they say that you should dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And he's dressed to be the dear leader of Britain.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Thankfully, I'm hopeful that he never will be the leader of this country. But
there can't possibly be a world in which that could happen. I'm amazed that there's a world in which he can finally beat a man in a dolphin suit to become the MP of a place of people who are so easily led that they'll vote for him and think that he will be good for them. I mean, in what parallel universe could that possibly happen to the people of Clacton, that he would be good for them?
I honestly have no idea. But it's because of the amount of publicity the man seems to get all the time. And when you've got, I mean, this obviously all sparked because of the tragedy that happened on Monday. And then ever since then, the right-wing media and news channels, the GBBs and the Talk TVs, they have almost been trying to defend these rioters in some way, or caveat things by saying, well, they shouldn't be doing that. But, and, a lot of what I've been hearing as well is, why did the police immediately rule this out as being terrorist-related? I mean, they're determined that this must have been a terrorist act, even though they have no evidence to back it up.
Right. Evidence doesn't matter. You say something on the internet. This is what Donald Trump has taught all of these people. You say something on the internet, it doesn't have to be true. If you say a lot of untrue things on the internet, then people who are trying to fact-check you in real time, their heads start to spin and they can't cope. And so the information that is misinformation has gone out there and has been collected feverishly by the people who are eager to get this sort of thing as proof that their hatred is justified. And once it's out there, there's no amount of, no, wait a minute, that was wrong, is going to make any difference, because they've received it, they've grabbed it, they put that in the bank, and now they're off to either spend that fury or to collect more of it. So it doesn't. We're in a post-truth age now. It is all about feelings, and the people who run those TV channels and the politicians. There's a few of them, and they know who they are. These people, they know precisely what they're doing. When people say, "Oh, they must think about their words carefully before they speak next time," they have thought very carefully about them, and this is precisely what they mean to say. When they say, we don't know that that person is, the person responsible for this horrible story was an illegal immigrant. We don't know that they were, but we're just asking the question whether they were. But the people, and they know that the people who are listening to that, they're not looking for subtlety here. They heard the words illegal immigrant, and that's all they needed to know.
Well, exactly. And that's obviously what's led to this. I mean, clearly, Ofcom should be doing their job better. These people are just emboldened by that, because they see it as, we're getting support for all these different places, as if there's a growing movement for idiocy. And there is no movement for that. And I will say as well, listen, Keir Starmer's far from perfect, but when Nigel Farage says that Keir Starmer doesn't have a clue how to deal with criminals and crime in our streets, the man used to be the head of the Crown Prosecution Service. Yes. I will trust him more to deal with that than Nigel Farage. Yeah. But they can't win the police either, and I do sympathise with them, because if they do nothing, or they're perceived to do nothing, like in Leeds, they get an absolute battering. If they try and clamp down and bite back a bit and do what they have been trying to do here, again, the right-wing media are all over them. You know, you can't do that. You know, we want you to calm down, but not on these people.
Exactly right.
How do you win? It
very much depends on who they're hitting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. But they can't win in that world at all. You know, and I think clearly, as you say, we're in this age of disinformation, so it doesn't matter that literally, almost immediately when they arrested this boy initially, they had stated that he was from Cardiff and had moved to Southport. They had told us that. So, you know, we already knew.
But they weren't after. They didn't want that information. They wanted to know what his first name was. For obvious reasons. If it was Dave, then they would have been disappointed.
Well, exactly, yeah.
That's not the information that they were after. So they'd have asked another question. OK, well, where's he from then? Cardiff. No, where's he from? And then it would have gone on from there. And eventually they would have got something, you know, we looked at his genetic makeup and he's got, 1% African. So that's all they need to know. Thanks a lot, Craig. 0345 6060 973. Rona texts, it's also unutterably depressing at the moment. No, Rona, it's not. I think we've just gone through a really quite uplifting period because France stared into the abyss and then came back to the light, and so did we. Don't forget that. We've just gone through a period of great change. We don't have
this government
any more. Isn't that great?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. And America looks like it's turned around as well, because the chief chump, he's very, very, very upset with Joe Biden.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Yeah. And he looks like he's deflating like a party balloon. Looking very old and sad, Donny. I'm just saying.
Don't be rude.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. 0345 6060 973. There was more of that text that I didn't read out. I got hung up on the first sentence. Rona texts, it's also unutterably depressing at the moment. No, Rona, it isn't. Don't get me started on that again. She says, if I hear "We want our country back" one more time, I'll scream. We're not living in the film Idiocracy anymore. It's much worse than that, says Rona. Shall I recommend that film one more time? There's a film called Idiocracy. It's made by the guy that did Beavis and Butthead. Now, if you don't like Beavis and Butthead, don't let that put you off. It's very, very funny. You should have a small beverage before you see it.
Booze.
That's my recommendation. It used to be a comedy about a dystopian future in which the entire human race has got incredibly stupid because the stupid people outbred the smart people. Now, that is not an inconceivable future, is it? In fact, I'd be surprised if it went any other way. I mean, is it me, or are the stupids proliferating? Maybe it's got something to do with climate change. Probably not. But Idiocracy, it used to be a comedy about a dystopian future. Now it's a documentary about the present. I think you'll find you'll love it. Idiocracy. Ask for it by name on a TV streaming service near you. Tavistock. Hello, Rose.
Hello, Nick.
Hello, Rose. Have you thrown a brick through any windows lately?
Oh, I've just written down the stupids are proliferating.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Sorry, I've suddenly gone blank. I was about to say something, and it's gone.
Oh,
yes,
something. Say something or anything. Say, was it about flowers? Was it about trees? About clouds?
No, it was something to do with what you were just saying, which sort of interrupted what I've jotted down here to
Idiocracy.
say. So I'll go back to...
we want our country back.
But, yeah, that is what I was going to say, which I would not have forgotten, because I've got it jotted down. It's slogans like that. You see, I loved your phrase, bellicose grifters.
Did I say that?
You did.
Bellicose grifters, right. Well, who...
Jot it down so you don't forget.
Yeah, I will, yeah. Bellicose grifters, Nigel.
This is absolute tosh.
He doesn't like that one.
These people who, the rich, who go online and put out something, all they've got to do is put out these, usually, as you've said before, in a different context, 3-word slogans.
Four tops, but we want our... no,
it doesn't work for that one. I realise that.
But that's a distortion of the phrase. It's like, make insert country of here, insert country of origin here, great again. That's the perfect one. And that, of course, came from you know who.
Yes.
He's on the History Channel a lot. Funny guy with like a weird haircut and a moustache. That guy. We make Germany great again. That was his. And we want our country back. That's theirs as well. I mean, it was very, very... they were a big hit for a while there, Rose.
Yes, indeed. Because you hear, sometimes people come on phone-ins and they say, well, enough is enough. And you say, my God, I've now heard that 4 times. And you know perfectly well that's what... Oh, and the next one is 2-tier policing. And we've actually had phone-ins discussing this as if it's a serious prospect. What it is the bellicose grifters sat there popping it out and think, this is a good one, enough is enough, 2-tier policing.
Right.
The knuckle draggers will then fill in the story. They only need the words.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean anything. Neither of them mean anything at all.
And I don't think that they really need a story. They just need somebody to shout 1, 2, 3, go, and they're off. No thought required.
No, not really. But I was also going to say that I think it was inevitable that we would get violence in the end, because what we've had is, since the Tories have got in, and I just wonder how much intent is behind it. We got a right-wing Tory government. I mean, one journalist said, we haven't got a Conservative government, we've got a radical right government. Yeah. When the thing got in, Boris.
Right, same as in America.
People.
Yes, same as in America. It's the same people conducting affairs on both sides of the Atlantic. It's the same handful of weird Bond villain billionaires. And that's why you hear the same things on American right-wing media as you do on our right-wing media. They use the same phrases, it's the same story, it's the same narrative, because it works.
Yeah, yes. So in our case, they deliberately impoverished people. They took away the public services. Mm-hmm. And then
everything to rely on, yes.
Yeah. So nobody had anything to rely on. There's no structure.
Yes.
And so then you get these really unpleasant people being in ministerial roles, legitimising hate speech. And then you get the Bibi Stockholm and everything. And I was going to say that I'm scared of us getting these people, these sorts of people, whether it's through Farage or whether it's through Jenrick and Tugendhat, who are saying we will leave the ECHR, into power finally. And what the knuckle-draggers don't realise is they will have no rights, because the right wing gets rid of the people's rights. The right wing aren't interested in them.
No, but
they're just using them.
Yes,
you know?
but if you ask them what they think, as I've seen it done in America again and again, if you ask a Trump fan what if he became a dictator and took all people's rights away, they would love that, because they can't envisage the scenario in which their rights will be taken away because they're part of the cult. They think that being part of the Trump cult will protect them from Trump. Well, unless they have $1 billion behind them, oh no, it won't. But you can't tell them that. They will not learn. It's not that they're ignorant. That's understandable. I'm ignorant of almost the entire sum of human knowledge. But I'm open to learning. They are willfully ignorant. They refuse to learn because they're...
Oh, God, I do feel that, yes.
Yeah, they're basing their entire life view on what they've been told. They've given over all that troublesome thinking stuff to other people to do it for them.
Yes, it does feel like that, and it feels like that with people you meet sometimes as well.
What, in Tavistock?
Yes.
Really?
Sometimes, yes. I mean, I got into a nice conversation with a chap with such a nice smile, a council worker. Mm-hmm. This is ages ago now. And I said something about my circumstances, and he said, oh, well, they give all the houses to those people on boats. he said, and he mimed a key in a door. He said, they go, there you are, have a house.
Mm. Yeah.
And I said,
and a Bentley and £1 million.
Yes,
yeah.
And then he said, you go to Plymouth, you don't hear anyone speaking English.
No.
They make these things up because that's what they want to feel and think, I think.
Yes, but they do make it up because none of the above has any basis in truth, but they're not after the truth. As I said, we're all about feelings now. And it was one of those people who brought us Brexit. It was Aaron Banks, and I think it was him. He said at the time, he said, don't bother people with facts and statistics and information. It's all white noise to them. Yes. We're all about feelings now. And that is precisely what won them the Brexit referendum. No facts were involved. All of those people that say, oh, I knew what I was voting for. Oh, no, you didn't, because this is what you got. And this, whatever you might like to describe what is going on here, this is not what you thought was going to happen. You didn't think that white Europeans would be replaced by people from Pakistan and India. And that is what has happened. No one voted for Brexit thinking that would happen.
Somebody I know, he has a cleaner. This is somebody back in Oxford from way back in my life. Mm. And he was desperate about this Brexit thing. His partner is Spanish, and that's somehow part of it. He escaped Franco.
Oh, yeah.
And came to work in the NHS. Mm. Oh, God knows when, ages ago. Anyway, so, sorry, it's just come flooding back to me, but my friend, he said, it never leaves me, this fear of the Brexit thing. And he sussed that his cleaning lady was for it. And one day he said, I said to her, I won't say her name, because that was part of the way he said it, obviously. He said, but why, say it was Helen, but why, Helen?
Yeah, why, Helen?
She paused. She didn't want to say it, and then she said,
"Oh, I'm going to decide to just dump that."
Oh God!
Yeah,
I'm
because
sorry.
no,
I'm
that's
so
okay.
sorry.
You said she, Helen.
Yes.
Was a dreadful person, and she said it's the very bad word beginning with P. Is what Rose says. Rose forgot herself for a moment there, and she was using builder's speak.
Disgusting.
Can you believe that? Thanks a lot, Rose. You have alarmed me enough. Yeah, exactly, and that's the essence of it. It's always worked wherever it's been tried. It's just that not always do you find people in a position of authority who've got the gall, the nerve, to actually say this stuff out loud. The reason your life is not working very well is because of those people over there. There's a classic cartoon of Rupert Murdoch sitting around a table with two other guys. One's wearing a builder's hard hat, and one is obviously an immigrant from, let's say, Africa. And each of them got a plate in front of them, and there are biscuits on those plates. And the guy who's a builder has got 2 biscuits on his plate. The immigrant's got no biscuits on his plate, and Rupert Murdoch has got a pile of biscuits you can barely see him behind. And Rupert Murdoch's saying to the builder, "Watch out, mate. That guy's after your biscuits." And that's the world in a nutshell. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
Well, some parts of it do seem to have lost their minds. Or what little was left of them.
We just want our country back.
Rona texts, oh no, I've read this one over and over. It's also utterly depressing at the moment, says Rona. Cheer up, dear, it might never oh no, that's right, it already has. Catherine says, it's true, housing stock hasn't been replaced, however. What? It's true, housing stock hasn't been replaced, however. It's exacerbated by the immigrants taking the available stock, and there's a 3 to 5 year waiting list for homeless, in capital letters, like she's shouting at me, homeless people in temporary accommodation who are mainly but not solely immigrants, usually requiring large properties. This is a fact, says Catherine. Oh, well, if it's a fact, Catherine has done her research. Recent migrants are almost 3 times as likely to be renters compared to other migrants. UK-born and foreign-born people had similar levels of participation in social housing, 16% and 17% respectively. And as there's far fewer people who are foreign-born here than UK-born, that 17% is of a smaller number. Migrants and UK-born households living in privately rented homes in London spend more than a third of their net income on rent. And 11% of households headed by non-EU-born adults lived in overcrowded accommodation, especially in London. This is from the Migration Observatory, September 2022, Migrants and Housing in the UK. People born abroad had lower home ownership rates than UK-born. 70%. UK-born people have own their home to the degree of 70% of them. I find that surprising. But that is a fact and not feelings. So it doesn't really matter what I think. Those are the facts, Jack. Georgia says, I came of age during the beginning of Tory rule. I was the first year to get £9,000 uni fees. Oh. It were grand when I were a lad, Georgia. You used to get all of that paid for you, and the government gave you a stipend on top.
What?
Yeah, actually paid you money to go. Can you believe that? Anyway, she says, I honestly despair at where we've been brought to. It's hard not to feel completely hopeless at the moment regarding all sorts, not least all of the economy. I still can't buy a home, says Georgia. But the rise of the far right is scaring me far more. I'm trying to put things into historical perspective, but it's hard when you're from a Brexit town and you hear this kind of talk all the time. Get out of that town, Georgia. Go back to where you came from. Wherever nicer place that is. And let's not get carried away. The rise of the right. I mean, people are talking about this with the same certainty that they were talking about Donald Trump was going to win the next U.S. election, and that was going to be the last U.S. election that they ever had. Weren't they? They'd already given up. It was like, as soon as he took the world's tiniest cut on his ear, and made out like he was a superhero who had just stopped a speeding bullet. From that moment, the entire world thought, oh, Struth, well, that's that then. He's won. And then a week happens, and it's completely turned on its head. And it's almost like somebody opened the curtains and let the light in the room. And Donald Trump went from a certainty to a no-hoper, looking like a confused, sad, sour old man. Emphasis on the old.
Don't be rude.
Because that's what they were going with previously, talking about Joe Biden's age. Well, Donald Trump's about the same age as Joe Biden. So who's old now, Donnie? And that, doesn't even touch his, what an appalling excuse for a human being he is. And ditto the people who have joined his cult, the maggots. So things turn around so quick. I mean, France, people were talking about, they're going to be run by the far right now, France. You can forget about that country. Strike it off your holiday list. Unless you've got, an Egyptian sun symbol tattoo. Look it up. And then they came back from the abyss, because here's the truth. There's fewer of these crazies than there are of us. Way fewer. And in this country, it's always been about the same number. It's about 14% they peak at. You know, when they get a lot of publicity and they get to go out on their little fun days where they dismantle walls to use as weapons. And, they get to give it the big I am and, stand up to a guy in a police uniform, which they ordinarily wouldn't do. But, as part of a gang, it's thrilling. And so, they get a lot of publicity and they bring other thrill seekers to their cause. But it's not really a cause, is it? It's just an exciting day out. I mean, in the most fevered imagination, they're not actually going to change anything, are they? I mean, do you think that they're the focus of their ire, they're going to form an orderly queue and hop on the next plane out of Heathrow? Of course not. They can't possibly think that. So what do they think will come from it? They don't think anything will come from it. It's just fun. And there's always about the same number. The BNP had the same number, and you go through the sort of far-right parties, and it's like a sine wave. They go up and they go down, and they go up and they go down. And at the very peak, it's always about the same number of people. It's about 14%, which, fact fans, means there's way more of us than there are of them. So let's not get carried away with holding our heads in our hands, thinking that these are the end of times and those people are going to take over. They're not. Is anybody feeling better?
No.
No, okay. Am I wasting my time?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Moving on. Let's see now. Ealing, Mohammed.
Hello, hi, Nick. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
I think what we've seen over the last week is the culmination and the fall of the last 14 years of Tory government. I think the reason that these extremists on both sides of the peninsula are getting so much attention and feasible is the poor failure of the Conservatives. They all started with the fraudulent Brexit vote. When I say fraudulent, I mean lied to, many millions of us lied to about the consequences of Brexit. Mm-hmm. I talk about austerity. Yeah. I talk about putting public services to the bone. Mm-hmm. I talk about local authority literally not working. How many of them have gone bankrupt? All of these things that are giving excuses for far right and people from the far left and it's given them a vacuum to fester. If we get good governance, if we get institutions back to a level where getting people out of the cost of living crisis, taking children out of poverty, helping single mothers, helping fathers with great policies, that could uplift the public, I think these people will have no vacuum to cause riots of a huge proportion.
It's always the way when we're going through a period of economic strife, no matter how it is caused, that people search around for a reason, a simple reason, a simple answer to a complicated problem. And you could talk about billionaires who are draining the wealth out of society and they're not paying their taxes because they are in a position to write the tax laws by their having, by dint of them being able to pour enough money on politicians to make them do whatever they want. And because of that, we don't have the money to fund the NHS as we should. And because of that, we don't have the money to fund councils as we should. I mean, these were political choices that the Tories made, and they had real consequences. I mean, it's really boring to talk about council finance, but these are the things that cause councils to stop the care for the aged and those that need it. They close libraries, they shut the street lights off at a certain time, and they generally sort of add to the sense of decay and desperation. And it happens all over. So you could, blame the people that are draining the wealth out of society, or you could just say, well, yeah, those people over there, they dress funny. It's their fault. And the latter is much, much easier.
Yeah, Nick, I think what it is, those people, those billionaires, extreme billionaires who are using loopholes, to sabotage taxes that they should be rightly paying is one aspect of it. But I also believe poor governance and poor policies is a fundamental part of it. If the Chancellor of the Exchequer is making policies that, is going to dismantle, institutions that provide public services, then you're going to have a poor result. You don't expect the council, to fix the potholes, to fix all of the, take the bins 3 times a week and all of the etc. things, if the government is not providing the right level of funding, because the council provide day-to-day services for local communities.
You can't cut the funding by 40% and expect the councils to continue doing the job that people expect. And, of course, the Tory government knew that. They just used it to their advantage. They defund something, watch it collapse, and then say, what we actually need is to give it over to private enterprise. And I just happen to have a friend of mine on the phone from an organisation, a company that would be able to take that over. Isn't that a coincidence?
Exactly. There's been a lot of, what shall I say, dodgy dealings within the Conservative Party, giving, certain government contracts to certain people that donate to the Conservative Party. And that's a form of corruption in my eye,
Well, I think that somebody should look into it, Mohammed. I think that somebody should instigate an inquiry. An inquiry that will take 5 years, cost £50 million, and conclude that lessons must be learned. And that will be the end of it. Anybody want to take a bet on that? You know that that's where we're going. All of these investigations about the amount of dodgy PPE deals and people bought boats and houses with profits that they made hundreds of millions of pounds on equipment that they had no experience of providing, but they just happened to be close personal friends of an MP or two. And there will be investigations, no doubt, and it will conclude that lessons must be learned and nothing further will happen. You know that's true. Mohammed, I've got to go. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. 11:30 on LBC. The news headlines here with Tim Daly.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
You're joking.
0345 6060 973. On the subject of crime going down, I gave you some statistics earlier on. which will not have had any effect whatsoever, because those were just facts and nobody's interested in those anymore. We're all about feelings now, baby. And people feel that crime is going up because they read about it all the time, because people keep pummeling them with the evidence that crime is about, but they don't put it into context. Crime is actually going down. This is a much safer country than it probably ever has been. But you don't really think about that. All you think about is you just heard about something dreadful that happened in a place 2 streets away. But on that subject, Laura texts, crime is definitely going up tonight, probably all weekend too. Yeah, it's like a moron's weekend out. Dave says, Starmer needs Dave says, Starmer needs to start taking Farage and his ilk seriously, being able to drip poison into society. His ilk. Ugh. I don't know. There's just something about that just sounds unpleasant. It has the whiff of old cheese about it. His ilk. Oh. Tom says, how can anyone blame Islam on these stabbings? These far-righters are getting out of hand here, Nick. We need someone to change, but what? You're all over the place, Tom. It's just like word salad. Crouch End. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Brian.
Yes, I am Brian, indeed. Hey.
No, I am Brian.
Okay, well, we'll meet somewhere halfway.
Yes.
Good to talk to you, and it's great that they remember my name. I haven't called for quite a while, but anyway, yeah.
We have detailed files on you, Brian. We've been watching you.
I know. Anyway, the events of the past couple of weeks in America have just been astounding for me.
Head spinning.
And the best was that Trump actually agreed to be grilled by the black journalists.
Yeah.
And then to try and tell them that he's done more for black people than anyone since Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, nobody knows black people more than I do, believe me.
Yeah, and that he would say that to a black audience. You know, I guess he thought he was at some rally in North Carolina or something.
Well, he's never in front of an audience that aren't his paid cult fans. This is unfamiliar territory to him. He doesn't go anywhere where he gets booed, because he acts like a baby when he does. Like, he whines continuously when people aren't applauding his every move.
I am the most fabulous whiner. And I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining
over and over again. God, it's so painful.
He's getting so good at it. But yeah, he's got a lot to whine about, especially when he was talking at this black journalist thing about Kamala and how she was Indian for a while, and then she decided she's going to be black.
Yes,
and he seemed to forget that his running mate is married to an Indian woman, and so that there can be mixed races. But he seemed to ignore that fact. Also, apparently, Donald Trump Jr. was behind the decision to put J.D. Vance as the running mate. So,
well, no, I thought it was his billionaire backers. I thought it was Donald Trump's billionaire backers who are behind this this crazy coup document, which is called what is it? Project 2025. Yeah, this how to take over a country for dummies. That thing. I think it's their choice because he is an old tech bro, isn't he? He was part of the venture capital tech industry, and the venture capital tech industry in America, weirdly, who are considered by the right-wingers, the loony, lefty, tree-hugger types, all those people from California, they've all turned into...
That's where I'm from originally.
Right, they've all turned into type, by which I mean billionaires are keen, desperate yet, to keep as much money as they possibly can. They just don't conceive of the idea of paying tax, and they know that Donald Trump is going to let them get away with anything they like as long as they offer him a little cash up front. Donald Trump actually presented to a room full of oil company executives. He said, give me $1 billion and I'll give you anything you want when I become the president. To oil company executives.
You know, when they say what they're going to do, you better believe them.
Exactly right. He's got no filter because nothing he's ever said or done has had any negative consequences in his life. He's fallen butter side up every time he's been dropped. And
That's a good way of saying it.
And so there is no there is no sort of guile. There is no side to him. When he tells you what he's going to do, believe him the first time.
Yeah, if he says he's going to be a dictator on, I almost said a bad word.
No, I think you were right the first time. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brian. 0345 6060 973. If you didn't see it, it was one of the big stories this week. During a contentious and chaotic panel hosted by the National Association of Black Journalists, Donald Trump parroted disinformation. Can you believe that? He parroted disinformation about immigration and abortion, questioned Kamala Harris's race, and accused the panel moderator, a senior congressional correspondent for ABC News, of being rude and presenting such a nasty question. This is when she asked him, why should black voters trust you? After giving a list of reasons why they shouldn't. He's such a baby. It's amazing. He spends his entire time on stage saying, oh, I'd like to punch that guy in the face, and I'm going to punch that guy in the face, and I'm going to punch him in the face. And then the moment somebody quotes back what he has said, he goes into big baby mode. Oh, that's such a nasty question. He's such a nasty person. Why are you being mean to me? He's pathetic. Amazing that there's so many good old boys. Those people who are prepared to wear a hat with his name on, apart from anything else. We just want President Trump. Those people. So anyway, he went to this National Association of Black Journalists on Wednesday. Why he did that, I have no idea. I mean, imagine that he's desperate now. He thought he was going to win it in a landslide against Crooked Joe. And now the Democrats have been invigorated by Uncle Joe signing out, and Kamala Harris. I mean, she flew in and talk about hitting the ground running. That was amazing, how quickly she turned things around, and it was as though the sun came out all over the world. The entire world breathed a sigh of relief. And Donald Trump, he just did not know what hit him, and he thinks it's so nasty and mean. They're using this woman now. And he hates being corrected by women and cannot abide being corrected by a black woman. There's so many incidences where he flies off the handle because a black woman journalist has asked him a question. Anyway, on multiple occasions, audience members at the annual convention in Chicago attempted to fact-check Donald Trump in real time, including when he falsely claimed that Kamala Harris did not pass her exam to be a lawyer. Didn't pass the bar exam to be a lawyer. He just made that up. And when he defended pardoning people who were convicted for their actions on January the 6th, you know, no small thing. It was just when they tried to take over America. That's all. Follow me, said Donald Trump, and then ran away while his maggot fans went and did their worst. And Donald Trump arrived more than an hour late to this panel and then moaned and whined and complained over and over and over again that they made him wait. It's the other way around. Trump demanded that the organisers not go through with live fact-checking during the discussion and was in a standoff with organisers before the event took place. I mean, what kind of a person refuses to go on if he's going to be fact-checked? The conversation opened with this journalist called Scott, what's her name? Rachel Scott, asking why black voters should trust Trump given his repeated inflammatory comments about black people. Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner, Trump said. I mean, she was perfectly reasonable, like a journalist. Not some suck-up fangirl on Fox News. Trump said, and then asked her if she was from the fake news network ABC News. You know, him being keen on being nice and all, and respectful. He said, I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. I think it's a very rude introduction. I've been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln, he said. Anybody fact-checking that? And throughout the conversation, he relied on many of his previous talking points. He just goes through the hits. This is why he can't conceive of debating with Kamala Harris, because he will be made to look a fool. He'll just do this his shtick. If you were drowning, would you rather be eaten by a shark or electrocuted by the battery in a boat? And going on about the late, great Hannibal Lecter. It's like he's lost it. No, he has lost his mind. He just doesn't realise it yet, because when he goes into these 90-minute diatribes, the people he's talking to are his fans. Well, they're not even fans. They've joined a cult. He repeated the unsubstantiated claim that the undocumented migrants were planning on taking black jobs, he said. And I love this bit. You know Simone Biles, the gymnast of extraordinary ability? Later, she tweeted, I love my black job. Which is very unfair of Simone Biles, or whatever her name is. I call her Bile because that's what she is. She's a loser. She can't do tumbling. I do tumbling, believe me. Nobody knows more about tumbling than I do. Everybody says so. Scott then asked, this journalist, Rachel Scott, asked Trump about Republicans claiming that Kamala Harris is a diversity, equity and inclusion replacement for Joe Biden. In other words, she only got the job because of her skin colour. And Trump then took the gun and shot both feet. He said that Kamala Harris suddenly became a black woman and had previously only been identifying with her Indian heritage. Is she Indian or is she black, Trump said, as the audience audibly gasped. I think that's called losing the room, Donny. He said, I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't because she was Indian all the way and then all of a sudden she became a black woman. The fact is that Kamala Harris has always identified as a black woman, and she attended Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C. And Kamala Harris, speaking in Texas on Wednesday, dismissed Trump's comments as the same old show. Yeah. Emphasis on old.
Don't be rude.
Yeah. Sticking to you, Donny. It is sticking to you. You know, Donald Trump used to look like the horrible future, but now he just looks like the sad past.
Oh, shut up!
And when he loses, his billionaire backers are going to drop him like a used tissue. He will be genuinely amazed when all those money men stop taking his calls if he loses the election in November. It's coming for you, Donny. You sad, stale, fetid bag of wind.
I know a lot about wind.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nigel. You're the best. Ash texts, I had a look at a video on a news site, admittedly just a single video, but they looked like the football hooligans everybody said they weren't, and they were having a jolly good time. They looked excited. the world's gone mad and is allowing social media to do its thinking, is it not? That and the sheep mentality and far too much nationalism for the sake of joining a side to fight from. This is extremely primitive behaviour. Yeah, nutshelled it. It's caveman stuff. Actually, it's not. It's kids stuff, isn't it? It's being a gang, being part of a gang in school and running around and thinking you're, practically superheroes and you're invincible and no one can touch you because you're in a gang. Take them out of the gang and they'll calm right down. Put them in a gang and they're on their tippy toes with excitement. They're practically floating off the ground. They're so thrilled to be there. They started a fire. Woo. Chucked a brick and got away with it. Nobody came back at them. Thrilling. That's why they're doing it. It's fun. Anne says, Just Stop Oil have been imprisoned for several years, but I bet the hooligans encouraging hate against people will get away with it. Well, I very much doubt that they'll be receiving the same sort of sentences, but they aren't trying to bring to our attention the imminent destruction of all that we hold dear. So, obviously that doesn't require as much prison time. God, what a world, eh? What a way to run a country.
Dreadful.
East Yorkshire, hello, Mike.
Good evening, Nick. You're sounding great tonight. Are you better?
Thank you.
Are you better?
Oh, better. Yes, I think I am.
Excellent. I'll come on to Farage in just a second, but you've been talking about this black journalist thing with Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was a leaked clip. Somebody was asking a Republican strategist what had gone wrong. And he said, the trouble is, if he comes off script, that's when the trouble starts.
Yes.
It's ends in disaster. We've got to keep him on script. And I'm thinking, it's a Q&A session. How the hell do you keep someone on script for a Q&A session?
Well, I can imagine that they try to train him ahead of time, because politicians will do that. They'll have rehearsal. Somebody will be the inquisitive reporter, and they'll ask them difficult questions. And you remember what's her name? The spokesperson for his bodgeness.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Mr. Blobby. How are we going to answer a question about having a party? One of our up-all-night business meetings during the COVID pandemic. And that's what they were doing. They were trying to, brainwave it and think of the answers to the questions that might come their way. And I bet they did that with Donald Trump, and he tuned out after about 2 seconds and started thinking about the late, great Hannibal Lecter, or about buckets of chicken wings, or, whatever, or walking into the dressing room at the Miss Teen USA contest. Any of these things could have distracted him at any time, but he didn't pay attention to any of the answers he was supposed to give, because he's always been able to wing it. That's the thing with that guy. He's brilliant at it. Let's make no bones about it. He's got a great act, but it's all about off the top of his head stuff. It's he's ad-libbing. Ask him to read, and he goes into robot mode.
Affirmative.
It comes across like not like a human being when he's reading off the teleprompter.
No, I quite agree with you, but then, good luck if you're a Republican strategist and you want to control it.
Yeah.
It's not a job I'd want. But anyway, Farage. Okay. Tuesday night, Look North, which is our local BBC television thing, Lincoln to and East Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And I tape it just to get the detailed weather. And I'm fast-forwarding through it, and all of a sudden, Farage is on the screen. Stopped it, rewound to the start of Farage. And he delivers an anti-Muslim rant. And this is a local issue. And it ended up with saying the British military should not pander to Muslims. And I thought, oh, my God, here we go again.
The British military?
Military, yeah. It was a local issue about the RF and what have you, but I'm going to tell you the details of it. There was a couple of planes, and they were reconnaissance planes, and they were known as Crusaders.
Right.
They changed the name because they thought it might offend Muslims.
Right.
And Farage is going on and on and on about this. And I'm thinking, why did a local local station not contact the Ministry of Defence or a local MP? They brought Farage in because he would be controversial.
Box office.
Box office.
Yeah.
But why do it? Why actually stir the pot, Mick? It doesn't appeal to me, that sort of stuff.
He seems to be the default person that certain news organisations will call for an opinion regardless of what the story is, because they think, oh, who can we get that will boost our audience figures? Because you don't have to like him or agree with him to find him mesmerising, in much the same way as a car accident is mesmerising. You wouldn't want a picture of it on your wall, but you can't stop looking at it when you go by.
No, and what was annoying with this is, I mean, Hull was very Brexity and Farage has got a big following in Hull. And that particular night, I thought, it's hot and sweaty, I'll go and have a couple of cold lagers down the pub. Went in the pub, and these guys and I have banter about Brexit quite often.
Oh, no.
Well, anyway, bye-bye, went in, and believe you me, they were talking about nothing but Farage and Muslims. And I had one pint and went home because it was appalling. It was, no, we've got to get Farage in as Prime Minister. He'll deport them all. You know, if we can get Farage in.
Yeah.
And I tried to do some reasoning, and then they connected it with Southport and this rubbish. And I just couldn't bear it any longer. And we're on the list for the crazies coming. Hull is supposed to be getting a visit from the crazies tomorrow.
Oh, yeah? What, in Beverley?
No, Hull.
Oh, right.
But I'll give them one little warning, and that's Hull Mosque is in the middle of an area well named as Little Baghdad, lads. If you don't worry about the police, I'll tell you. I mean, I'm hoping nothing comes up and they give us a miss and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But why is Farage there winding it up?
Well, he's spent, and that's the basis of his entire career is winding things up. I mean, when he was an MEP, did he work diligently on behalf of the people that have put him there? Did he go to? I mean, he was a member of the Fisheries Board. I can't remember the exact title of the European Parliamentary organisation that worked for the interests of fisher persons. But he was part of the people that were on that committee. He never went.
No, common fisheries policy. No, he didn't attend. And he promised the fishermen, well, with Brexit, it'll be great. It's been flaming disastrous for the fish industry.
Oh, I don't know. They're British fish, and they're all the happier for it, Mike. That's what I heard.
I don't know anything.
Yeah. We're still not missing you, Jacob Rees-Mogg, in case you were wondering. All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Mike. Keep your, I would run in a ducked position for there and back from the pub, if I were you. Don't stop for any reason whatsoever. Glenn says, British patriots do not throw bricks at the police while holding a can of lager. What do you mean by that? Well, they put the lager down and then they throw the bricks because that is less likely to spill the lager. Not quite sure what you... I'll read it on the surface, so I'll assume that you actually mean that. British patriots do not throw bricks at the police while holding a can of lager. Or while not holding a can of lager, for that matter. Caroline texts, these guys are not the far right, they're the far wrong. Get it? Caroline's being amusing. Amusing, yes? And Lee says, I'm so ashamed to live in this country now. Oh, it's not that bad, Lee. It's not this country, it's just those people. Let's not get carried away. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
Right, so what are we doing?
Doing a radio show, dear. Just forgot which fader to put up. You'd think I'd have learnt that by now. So I was just looking up Nans against Nazis. A defiant Scouse pensioner took to the streets of Liverpool to defend a mosque from far-right protesters amid another night of rioting in Britain. Pat, 71, you just heard from her. What a nice lady. She was part of the counter-protest that gathered on West Derby Road on Friday evening. That's this evening here. To oppose a planned demonstration outside the mosque. The grandmother from Toxteth in Liverpool was carrying a Nans against Nazis sign. I don't know, it's just, I mean, there are comical moments in all of this in the disturbing disturbance, and that's one of them. That is you can look her up on the World Wide Web. There's a picture over there with a Nans against Nazis sign. I'm with the Nans. Hands in the air if you're with the Nans too. Gary says it's not people from outside this country that key your car and smash your windows and rob your house and attack the police on a weekly basis. It's the feral British youth of today. Communities have been ruined long before the boats came crossing the channel. Years of cuts have decimated communities and local services, and towns have been left to die by years of Tory government neglect. Correct amundo. Gary is completely correct in every respect. Yeah. There's always been morons here, and those are the people that make your life a misery. It's not people on boats who are nicking your car and staying up all night long, having a party until 4 o'clock in the blooming morning. You can't sleep a wink. It's morons who are doing that. And morons throw their litter on the ground and they let their dogs poop on the street and they don't pick it up. And they walk around with those dogs that look like lions. And they have absolutely zero control over them. Oh, but they're great with kids, they say, until a tiny switch goes off in these dogs' brains and they eat the kids. Yeah, morons is what we're surrounded by. Feral British youth. There's a lot of them. And I'd have to say it's not entirely their fault. I mean, that they remain stupid is not entirely their fault. If the schooling system is failing them to the point that they leave school without being able to, never mind about write, they can't hardly speak. Why are you here today?
Well, because it's like Britain.
It's about all you'll get from them. But, you know, an uneducated and gullible audience does appeal to certain individuals.
I love the poorly educated.
To mention but one. The less intelligent you are, the more easy you are to control. Which is why dictators and wannabe dictators always go for the intellectuals first. They go for professors, educators. They're the enemy, those people. They want to keep you stupid and pliable. It's not an accident, it's the plan. And they know that. The people in control, the people with all of the money, they know that the feral youth of today aren't going to be coming to their manor. Because if they do, they'll be met with a stern response. There's no rioting in Mayfair. Nor will there ever be. It's always poor communities. It's the same in America as well. They don't riot in Bel Air. They riot in Compton. And it's not because they live there either. It's people travel from far and wide to enjoy the excitement of a riot. Feral British youth. Yeah. And apart from the lack of intellect, it's the lack of hope that gets you. I mean, I have a certain sympathy. They have no hope. Their lives are going nowhere. They know that. This is them for the rest of their lives, dirt poor and stupid. And there's almost nothing they can do about it. And so what do? Rage. You can go one of two ways, or both at the same time. You can lose your anger and your disappointment and your despair in drink and drugs or violence, and the drink can often go with can go with the latter. So, to a certain extent, I understand. It doesn't excuse anything, really, but it makes it more understandable that if you take people's hope away, if you take any possibility that they will improve their lives at some point in the future, if you condemn people to a life of misery at a really young age by removing all of the help that is available in better-run countries, more equitably run countries, where the wealth is spread more evenly. The happy countries, always the same people. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Holland. Always the same. Always at the top of the happiness index. HAPPY-ness in vast amounts. Why? Because they spread the wealth about. They give people a hand up rather than condemn them for the misery in which they were born. Which is what certain individuals do. Ain't that right, Liz?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what
this government
was all about. If you're not a billionaire, then that is your fault for not having been born to rich parents. Ain't that right, Smug?
I don't know anything.
Yeah. I think voters have had enough.
Voters have had enough
of him. Still my favourite moment of that night. Ruined only by that bloke who was standing next to him in a baked bean balaclava, which is it's the most disturbing item of clothing I've ever seen in my life. Slightly ruined it for me there, mate. Never mind. 0345 6060 973. Oldbury, Ranjit.
How are you, Nick? You're right.
Have you flipped over a police car lately?
Not really.
Not really, no. Okay.
Yeah, these guys that are disenfranchised, yeah?
Yes.
Who don't actually realise that they've been born into a poor family deliberately. They're going to live in a poor family deliberately. And
wait. What do you mean deliberately?
It's the people at the top are keeping them there.
Yes.
Specifically.
That's right, yeah.
And then they say, it could be you, that you're going to win that lottery and you'll get out that system.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And the dinglings actually believe it. Right? And just a quick one on what...
Well, they hang their hope on it.
They hang their hope. There's always hope.
They don't have hope, and that must be so dispiriting. I mean, I'm one of the luckiest people that's ever lived. I'm doing this for a living, for crying out loud. And with my obvious lack of ability, somehow I've got a radio show. Can you believe that? But there's I know. Every now and again, I string a sentence together. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and you analyse situations, right? And then the thing is, you're going to be classed as woke, and so is that, Nans against Nazis, yeah? They're going to call them woke in a minute.
Whenever anybody uses the word woke as an insult, just smile, don't say anything else, and back slowly out of the room. No sudden movements, just smile and nod slightly, to make them feel calm, as though they're, to make them assured that they're not going to be attacked, and just back slowly out of the room.
No, just humour them. I want to give a little bit of advice to Mike from East Yorkshire. I always love listening to what he says. Yeah, Mike, listen, if you're still listening.
Yes.
Don't try to sort out the system when you go to the pub.
No.
Just don't bother with them, because they are part of the problem.
I think that I suspect that Mike actually enjoys the thrill of the argument. I suspect that Mike enjoys correcting them. Not necessarily. I'm not talking about corporal punishment, but just shooting down their arguments. But that's not what I would. I mean, I guess I do it for a living, so it'd be a bit like a bus driver's holiday. But that's what I would actively avoid doing in a pub, especially around alcohol. Don't do it. Don't do it, Mike. It ain't worth it.
No, but you know what? Sometimes, when I'm feeling what's the word? Naughty, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I go and wind people up like that, right?
Naughty.
Yeah, and
that's not good for business, Ranjit. They might come in and see, that's that bloke I had this massive conflab with the other day. I'm not buying chips off him.
No, it's with my mate, but they're not. I would never go with a stranger and talk like that, right? And I just want to, like what Nigel Farage said, and then, I've seen the video with Katie Hopkins, right? People
I missed that. Please don't describe it to me.
I won't. You have a look at
I'd forgotten of her existence.
Yeah, but you know what? These people come out, right? And if you look at the serious things that have happened in the past, Hitler immobilised the youth, and everybody always immobilised the youth, right, who are disenfranchised, like what I said. This is what all these people are doing. And I'm going to say this word once because I can't say it again. Subliminal. Yeah,
it's what now?
No, never mind. Those messages that are sent out, Margaret Thatcher sent that message out in the 1979 election. She said to people, listen, I'm going to help to repatriate these people, right? Prior to that, it was the leader of the National Front, and he actually said, I want all immigrants who are non-white and their descendants to leave this country. So he said, basically, which was a bit stronger, and Margaret Thatcher went to the next, the lower, smoother level, which made everybody say, using the P word and the W word and the N word, get out of our country. Yeah. So Nigel Farage has basically done the same thing now, and he's been he looks so sincere when he's done that little video of what's going on.
In between the two flags. I mean, comical.
Yeah, I really care about you, and you know, and this is what, with the hot weather, right? Like these dogs, they attack, don't they, when the weather's really hot, and they've been playing in the garden. The next thing is your kid's being mauled, So the football season's closed, and I'm not going to call football hooligans. These people have been immobilised, Now, when they went to Southport, the people are telling them, what are you doing here, right? The people have repaired that mosque. White English people have helped each other.
Actual locals. Real local. People who actually live there rather than who took a train there in order to have a riot. Yeah.
And when they go on about Muslims, the next thing, right, once they finish with the Muslims, they can start with the Sikhs, they can do this. When the COVID was on, a lot of the mosques and everybody, right, there's a good lad here, they call the Bearded Bros, in Birmingham. They were providing free food for everybody. They were taking food to people's houses. Yeah. Has Nigel Farage forgotten about that, right? That these are the same Muslims, right, that he's trying to target, right?
Well, I pass one of their vans regularly coming here, and they dole out food to homeless people who form an orderly queue. Those are the people that are doing it.
Every Sikh Gurdwara, which is a temple, has got a free kitchen. And the ones which are busy are open 24 hours a day. That down and outs, can go up there and have some food. The only thing they can't do in there is drink and smoke, And the thing is, ethnics like myself, right? We've done a lot of good things in this country. My father came here in 1961, and I was born in 65. I've always worked hard, and if someone comes into my shop and says, I'm really hungry, can you give me £1? I say, no, but I can give you a bag of chips. That's a kind gesture, that is, right, giving them something. And divisive people like Karela Braverman, Priti Patel, which brings me on, you know what? they ain't even going to elect a proper leader this time again. So that's going to be another 5 years. They're going to stay in the wilderness. Which one out of them makes any sense? Out of them, I can't see any of them in their list. Right? Sorry, I digress. But Nigel Farage, yeah, he should be held to account when he goes back into Parliament saying, you, mate, are causing an insurrection in this country.
You see, he has... people say that he should, choose his words carefully. He is choosing his words carefully. He hasn't incited anybody to riot any more than Donald Trump literally incited his MAGA fans to riot on January the 6th. He didn't say, let's go and stage a coup and you can hang Mike Pence if he doesn't lie through his teeth and we can steal the election. Didn't say any of that. But that's what his fans heard. But he leaves plausible deniability. I mean, Nigel Farage did not say... in fact, he actually specifically said that he didn't agree with violence and so on. But then he just asks questions. In the same way that I could ask a question. I could say, are all immigrants criminals? Why isn't the government telling us that all immigrants are not criminals? What are they trying to hide? I'm just asking the questions.
Subliminal again, I've said that word. That's what he's doing. He's passing a subliminal message to these people, yeah? Now, the thing is...
You just said subliminal three times.
Yeah. So the thing is, right, Nick, right, the way I see, okay, people, like I said to you, very good people, nice people, sometimes now refer to me as you lot, right, and sometimes they say, are you going home for your holidays? And I go, what, to Smithy, which is the next town. Yeah. So what's happening? Subliminally, right, these people, I'm on a roll here, right, they're getting that seed planted in their head. Yeah,
they're just hearing a few words. That's all they need to hear. And you can dress them up as in fancy phrases, and you can say how against all of this you really are. But I mean, I'm not suggesting that Nigel Farage is doing this, but people who would be named alongside him with a wink. They're all like, off you go, lads. But I'm just going to sit here in comfort and watch the unfolding chaos with a glass of something chilled in my hand. You go and do the fighting for me, and then I'll just sit here and rake in all the money.
Yeah. He could send them some legal teams to protect him and get them bailed as well, couldn't he, if he had a good friend who was, a good solicitor or whatever. And this is cogs within cogs. That's what people don't understand, that all of us are cogs with the big machine at the top. Like you said, those bond-like billionaires, right, who are controlling them. I mean, he went to America, right, when the screaming Mimi got shot, and people asked him, have you seen him? He went, well, I've come to see how he... Well, have you seen Donald Trump? Or have you met him? Well, he got shot in his ear. And basically he was saying, no, I haven't seen him. So why did he fly off to America for just after he's won the election in his local town? He should have gone and thanked the people.
The good people of Clacton, yeah. And I think it was very, very cruel of the people in Donald Trump's orbit to have apparently suggested to Nigel Farage that he fly 3,000 miles to go and be by Donald Trump's side and then not let him be by Donald Trump. They deliberately wasted his time. Maybe they're laughing at you, Nigel, or maybe Donald Trump doesn't actually like you as much as you'd like him to.
He's a dingaling now. That means Farage is one of Trump's dingalings, right? Yeah. And now that Trump is probably going to lose his election, right, what Farage is going to say is, oh, listen, I need to concentrate on my constituents.
Yeah. Very, very
right?
busy in Clacton at the moment.
In Clacton, and that's how you get out of it. Yeah, so
and in closing, in reference to your wheels within wheels, round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, on an ever-spinning reel, like a snowball down a mountain or a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's burning, running rings around the moon.
Rock and roll!
Sing! Thanks, Ranjit. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hot air. H-O-T-A-I-R.
Yep, no doubt about it. There's a lot of hot air about. Ain't that right, Nigel?
I'm a nutcase.
Certainly. Glenn says, British patriots do not throw brick... No, I've read that one. Don't throw bricks and hold a can of lager at the same time. It's one or the other. Get it right. Caroline says, these guys are not the far right, they're the far wrong. Pretty much sure I've read that as well. I'm getting deja vu. And Lee says, I'm so ashamed to live in this country now. I've read that one as well. Don't be ashamed, Lee. It's got nothing to do with this country. It's just those people, that's all. Let's not get carried away. Have I got time to take a call now before the snooze? Wait a moment. How many texts and email? Oh, my God. I'll never get through all of those. Not that I'm complaining or anything. You know me. Heston, Isaac.
Hello, Nick.
Isaac.
Hey, I wasn't... Oh, all right. Normally, I'm prepared with summaries and bullet points of what I have to say, you know. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But,
I can put you on hold and come back to you if you prefer.
Yeah, okay, yeah, do that, yeah, if possible, if you can, yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
There you are, another satisfied customer. Well, so isn't this exciting? We'll be back with him shortly. Are you thrilled?
No.
Tony says, I think the police have lost the streets. I was confronted by 4 boys yesterday, aged about 12 to 13 years old, because I was wearing pink shorts.
What?
The police did come and walk me home after one of them pulled out a catapult on me. Who brings these kids up? The parents are the problem. You are 100% right. We are surrounded by morons. Pink shorts. Right. Were you wearing socks and sandals? Maybe it was that. That does seem alarming. And they know, at 12 and 13 years old, they know they can get away with anything they like because they are fully aware that they're underage. And the police can't and won't do anything about it. But yeah, of course it's the parents' fault. Stupid parents have stupid kids. In much the same way as blonde parents will have blonde children and tall parents will most likely have tall children. It's... what these people who are yelling about they want their country back, I would dispute that it's their country. I mean, precisely what about it have they made? Other than just getting born into it and then making a mess from that moment on. What is it that they think is theirs about this country? And who are they to say that they want it back? I want it. I want my country back from them. I'll say it again. This country would be a significantly better place if all of those people who are rioting right now, just because it's fun, all of those people, and the people that they know, and all of the people that are associated with them, if they all left, I'm pretty sure that we could do whatever it is that they do and get along fine without them. Thereby taking our country back. Not theirs, ours. Because our country is being soured by those people. Much less so, in every provable way, than by people who are coming over here and doing the jobs that we don't want to do, or can't do, or there aren't enough of us to do them. But unfortunately, you can't filter the population out by well, it's not even IQ, is it? I mean, that's got something to do with it, but it's social intelligence as well, isn't it? It's not your ability to solve mathematical problems. That's not really it. That's an indicator of overall intelligence, but social intelligence is something completely different. You don't need smarts to just be a good neighbour, for instance. You don't need to pass an exam to know that you don't leave your dog to poop on the sidewalk and then just leave it there. Because it's my right and I can do what I want. You know, those people. The feet on the seats in the train people. Those ones. The having loud conversations on speakerphone about sex on the train. Those people. We should start a movement. We want our country back from you. Hands in the air, who's with me? Let me count. That's overwhelming. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's out at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10, Nick Abbot, LBC. It's, 12, blimey. Don't time fly when you're out your mind. 12:30 on LBC. The news headlines here with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I enjoy working with people.
And mostly at the moment, I'm enjoying working with Isaac, who is no doubt fully prepared. Isaac.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Here
I'm
we
the
go.
contestant here.
Yeah, lay on us,
Summary
baby.
and Tracy.
Go ahead.
Boom, boom, boom. Right. Number one, I wasn't actually going to phone tonight because I've been listening to the show, and then all of a sudden I couldn't hear you. I tried my Sky TV, wasn't okay, wouldn't work. I tried Alexa, wouldn't work. I tried I tried my computer, okay, wouldn't work. Yeah. And so I actually phoned and I could hear the show. But now, okay, everything's working again.
Well,
you know.
I do find that
Alexa,
I find that highly suspicious, don't you?
Possibly, yeah.
I don't know that Nigel Farage was responsible for this. I'm just asking the question. I think that we should be told.
Yeah. Oh, I see, yeah. I know what you mean, yeah. Anyway, number two...
Do you?
...is...
because the way you said it makes it sound as though you didn't. But anyway, go on.
Number two...
Yes.
Number two, I'd like everyone, you know, on LBC and the rest of the country, I'd like to extend my heartfelt sympathies to the children who lost their lives in that sad attack on Monday. You know, it was really sad. So I extend my sympathy to the people of Southport. When I saw Southport, I've actually got fond memories of Southport of many years ago.
Oh yes, okay?
Because I used to attend the Southport Soul Weekender in the 90s.
Oh,
yeah.
right. The Southport Soul Weekender, I bet Soul to Soul were one of those acts.
Rock and roll!
I saw... What did I see? Soul to Soul? I think I saw Soul to Soul at Prestatyn, I think.
Oh.
You know, I see Soul to Soul.
Prestatyn, eh?
Yeah. Prestatyn. Anyway... so when I saw Southport, I've got a special connection with Southport, right. So I extend my sympathies.
So,
okay?
Fatback Band, I bet. SOS Band, somebody like that. One of those really superb, smooth 80s soul bands.
I saw Keith Sweat, I saw Maze.
You saw Keith Sweat? Why, what was he doing?
Keith Sweat, you know, the R&B singer. You know, amongst others. Anyway.
What a name to give yourself, Sweat, as a second name. That can't possibly be his family name. He deliberately called himself Mr. Sweat.
Well, that's his stage name at least. It was very popular back in the day.
Yeah,
anyway, and thirdly, yeah. As I said, I wasn't going to phone in. I was just sitting here listening to the show, taking it all in, loving it, and now
having this show wash all over you. Yeah,
absolutely. And now I don't know how I'm going to fit in Match of the Day when the football season starts. You know what I mean?
No.
I'm gonna have to watch Match of the Day on iPlayer.
As opposed to doing what? I don't understand. Where have we gone now? You're all over the shop.
Oh, right.
I understood.
No.
And one.
And number two.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, I understood both of those, and then we've swerved violently, and you're refusing now to watch Match of the Day. Why is that?
Yeah, no, because you're on Friday, Saturday, 10 till 1.
Right, more on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, so because I've been a Match of a Day viewer for 50 years since 1972.
Right.
Okay, 52 years.
Okay, well, you sound very much like one of the Wokey Cokey to me.
Okie dokie.
Watching that Gary Lineker, Gary Bloomin' Lineker.
But I'd rather. But what I do is I say to my friends and acquaintances, you know where to find me, on a Friday and Saturday night.
Right.
In actual fact, quite a few people have phoned up and said, I've heard you on the LBC again.
Yeah, no doubt. But the Match of the Day on Saturday and Sunday, not usually Friday, unless it's a special occasion. I can't ever remember it being on a Friday. So Friday night should be clear, Isaac. Don't worry about a thing. Saturday you might have another engagement. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. No. I'll just be listening to you.
Right. Okay. Excellent work, that man. I can't believe that the football season is about to start again. Can you? I mean, it's away for the blink of an eye, and then they're all back again. And it's almost as though you have to think, oh, am I ready for this yet? I feel like I need a little bit more strength. I feel as though I need to be connected to a battery just for a little bit longer to get some strength back to go through that roller coaster again. It does feel like sort of pulling up your petticoats. And you've got to hurl yourself to the horizon with, Match of the Day and that soap story that we're about to engage in again. But you can barely get your breath in the summer between the end of one season and the beginning of another. Am I right?
Yo, yeah, sure. Sorry.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah.
Is this thing on?
Correct. Yeah.
All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Isaac, for whatever that was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm sure there was something in there somewhere. Jim says, we want our country back. Back from what? Who? Where? They never actually follow that through and explain what they do want. Don't look for logic in their actions or thoughts, Jim. There is no logic in their actions, and as for thoughts, well, they ain't got many of those. Don't search for subtleties. It's exactly what it looks like from afar. Morons throwing bricks because it's exciting. Because they're much more likely to get away with it if they're in a crowd of other people who are also doing that. That's why they travel from far and wide in order to take part. It's because if they just stood in their own street and lobbed bricks at people, then they would be apprehended by the law toot sweet. But if they can get on a train and go 100 miles down the way to somebody else's manor and join in a crowd of, similarly hard-thinking people, then they're much more likely to get away with it, which adds to the fun, of course. You and I might go for a picnic. A nice picnic with in amongst the flora and the fauna. Doesn't that sound a delight? But that's not really their thing. They're not too keen on nature after what it's done to them and all. 0345 6060 973. Bodmin, Malcolm.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Nick, big picture.
Yes.
And then not small, but really something Labour needs to be very, very wary of because of historic factors and historic events. Now, after Thatcher, Nick, and after the Labour years in the late 70s, we had Margaret Thatcher. I voted for Margaret Thatcher in 1979. And in 1980, there were riots in Britain. All over Britain. Bristol was badly hit. And there's a story I'm aware of a young lad who was a friend of a friend who joined an organisation and got into trouble in the middle of the riots. And that always sticks with me, and it followed on from years of unrest in Britain through the I remember the winter of discontent and all of those things. So people in trouble in their lives, poor jobs, poor work, poor housing, poor everything. So that was 1979, 80, 81, Nick. Then you move on to 97 after Blair took over from John Major, who was, in all essence, a continuation of Thatcher. Blair had riots himself, but over the water in Northern Ireland there were riots. And it was about a change of government, a change of politics, a change of the way the country would move forward. Yeah. Then you move on to 2010. David Cameron had riots in his early years. I mean, all sorts of issues.
But you're not suggesting that it's a change of government that causes or precipitates riots, are you?
No, what I'm saying, Nick, is there's one side which has had the party of its choice, and as you said about people under the Tories, the right-wing people now, the Brexiteers, whoever, under the Tories, their lives have not improved. But they are so sad that the Tories are gone. And I think you'll find them right.
Yes, that really is extraordinary. Yeah, I mean that if that's not an indication of a problem with education in this country, I don't know what is. People keep voting for the party that keeps acting out with their interests. I mean, explain that to me. Other than people are gullible and easily led and have essentially, as Trump's fans in America have done, they've joined a cult. I mean, the same thing exists here. If you keep voting for a party that has demonstrated for its entire existence that it is not interested in the poor and will actively work against their interests, and if those poor people still keep voting Conservative, as they insist on doing, well, I can't really explain that any other way than they've joined a cult.
Look, you got a clip that you keep on playing of Trump saying, I love the poorly educated. I've got a friend who I mentioned to you before who voted Brexit, who's a very successful businessman, but salt of the earth, went through college with him, been lifelong friends, didn't speak for a long time. Spoke before Brexit, fell out over Brexit, are speaking again now. But I keep on... My thing with this friend is he's a Trump fan, he's a Tory fan, he's, what do they call it, the Farage Party fan, right? Yeah. But I keep on saying to him, look, the people you like love the poorly educated. I'm not saying you're poorly educated, my friend, but no doubt these people love you. But that's in the big picture. But bringing it on to where we are now and the places up north where it's happening. And this is where I bring Labour. And I'm not saying any of these things are linked or connected, but the things that people like me, you, the Labour Party have to be aware of and be ready to counter, because nobody wants people walking into Britain without any checks, balances, or the rest of it. Nobody wants people on boats crossing the channel. Nobody wants people hanging on to lorries, under lorries, in lorries, being smuggled through the ports. Nobody wants 1.2, 1.6 million people being given visas freely to come into this country, especially to countries where there's a trade deal at stake.
Hang on a minute, though. That last part, it does very much depend on what they're doing, because the majority of them, I think you'll find, are students. And if it were not for those students paying foreign fees, then those universities would not be able to cope.
No, Nick, the majority are not students.
Well, I think it's getting on for a third. So it may be the largest contingent. The others are scattered among for various reasons.
But even that third, Nick, is split between a number of nations. And I've said it to you before, the top two are India and Nigeria. But again, that's not my point, Nick. But what I'm saying is this, right? Mm-hmm. You've got little things, but they're huge things. The Bibi Stockholm, Labour have said we're closing it down after Christmas. There'll be no more, and the people on it will go back into hotels. Then you've got the Rwanda planes Rwanda scheme has been stopped. And
it never got started, but go on.
No, but next. These are policies, look, that the right and the supporters of the right were hanging on to, and which is why the country was quiet under the Tories. Because of the Tories, the right thought, had this nailed down. They're going to win the election.
Yeah.
Flights will be going to Rwanda.
Right.
But now, Nick, all of that has been taken away from the people on
their
the
hope has been taken away. Right.
Yeah, and these issues, Nick, about the poor little girls in this horrible situation, in this flipping school for dance, it's a side issue for the right, and it's something they're hanging their hats on. And
I see what you're saying. Okay, all right. Hang on a minute. I see what you're saying. All right. Okay. I get what your initial argument about the change of government entails. What you're saying is, if I can fill in the gaps, is that after a change in government, all of that we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. That just disappears. I mean, they were probably never going to do any of the things that they promised, but all that stops, and a veil has been taken from the eyes of the public. It's almost as though a curtain has been drawn, and they can see
what liars and charlatans they were.
They can see for the very first time, and all of that, all of those promises that they were pinning their hopes on, they've just disappeared on the wind like a bad smell. So that would partly explain the explosion of ire that comes from a change in government. So that's probably a very prescient and well-considered argument there, Malcolm. I bet no one's ever said that to you before.
No, Nick, they have many a time, my friend. And listen, Nick, it doesn't take a genius to work that out, so because it's there in black and white in history. You've only got to go on the internet. I did it 20 minutes ago, and there it is, 1980, 1997, 2010, and now 2024. A change of government, and I'm not saying it's because of a change of government. It's because of the one side, all of a sudden, their hopes and wishes and things that they believed in absolutely, in reality, without hope, because the government they were backing were never going to give them the things that they want, as you just said.
No. It's always just slightly in front of you. Oh, we couldn't do it because of left wokies, but we'll keep trying. So the hope that your life is going to get better because we're going to be cruel to those people is don't lose that hope, Nick, because we're working towards it. Yes, Malcolm.
Nick, I honestly hope, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, not as a Labour supporter, but for the people of Britain, right?
Yes.
I hope the Labour Party look at the argument I've just made, and they do not make the mistakes that previous governments have done, and they go through the next 5 years, setting themselves up into the next 5 years, after the next election, with honesty, truth, and saying to people on both sides, look, we, over 40, 50 years, have always been sucked into this nonsense, and we've always lost our tempers. Why don't we just stop all this, and as a country, be sensible, move forward, and work for everybody? And if we get people coming into the country because they've lived in a bad place, we've just got to say we have to be a part of the normal world, and we've got to invite some people in. But the ones we don't want, they are going to go. And honestly, Nick, people on both sides will be very, very happy. I think Labour have got to see that, Nick. They've got to smell the coffee, and they've got to wake up, or they will not get 5 years, Nick.
Right, but let's not get carried away. We're not talking about the majority of people who are up in arms about any of the above. No. These are a tiny, tiny minority of people. They just shout the loudest. That's all. Thanks a lot, Malcolm. I think he's, it might not be this messenger, but he's looking for a government.
This government
like
will
this.
have integrity at every level.
Every level.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Everything is going extremely well.
You bet your life it is. Jeremy texts, I read that a lot of these far-right protesters come from quite far away. They should go back to where they came from. Craig says, unfortunately, I live in Clacton. Are we paying for Farage's airfare backwards and forwards to the USA? Well, if not directly, then indirectly, yes. Because you're paying his wages, the not inconsiderable amount that he earns to be the representative of the good people in Clacton, plus the pension that goes with it, plus the £250,000 in expenses, and I bet he uses every single solitary penny of those, plus the subsidised food and the drink and all of the rest of it. And, of course, being in that position opens doors for you. So you may not be paying for his airfare backwards and forwards to the USA directly, Craig, but indirectly, yes. Culdip texts, why are these rioters destroying the country they say they love so much? Yeah, while the rest of the country is recoiling in horror. They think, well, that's the wrong way to start that sentence. Thinking, not their strong point. But I imagine they assume that because there's a lot of them in the street, they think that they are somehow the majority opinion in this country. And that's also an insidious feature of social media, is that it reinforces whatever you put in it. If it's as though you put into a calculator that 5 plus 5 is 11, and it doesn't correct you, it just tells you that that's correct, that is right. 5 plus 5 equals 11. And then learns from that you actually want the wrong answer every time. If calculators work like social media works, nobody would have been able to build anything. Your accountant would be in jail now.
In the schoolyard, where dreams take flight, we found love in the morning light. Hand in hand, we walk the halls, innocent hearts heedless of our falls. Giggles and blushes under the old oak tree. In the innocence of youth, we felt so free. Innocent love, pure and true, like the morning dew shining anew. Hearts entwined in a tender dance. Innocent love, our sweet romance. Passing notes in class.
It's, and the question is, can they be held responsible? Well, yeah, they can. I mean, they're the richest people on Earth now, the tech giants, aren't they? And they didn't get that rich by being nice. Any suggestion that they, are part of the wokey-cokey, the loony lefties, all of that went out the window the moment they all went full bore for Donald Trump. And the reason was because they don't think they've got enough money. I mean, specifically that. People with hundreds of billions of pounds, amounts of money so staggeringly huge you can't begin to comprehend the scale. They don't think they've got enough money or power. The power that comes with that money, because they're desperate to get more of it. That's why they're all behind Donald Trump, is because he's promised them that if you send me a lot of money, just like he did with the oil companies. Seems remarkable, really, that you can say this stuff and get away with it. You can say to a room full of oil executives that if you give me $1 billion, then I will give you anything you want when I become the president. I mean, I ain't making that up. It seems remarkable that he can say that sort of stuff and get away with it.
We don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I've got no idea what's happening. I'm pretty sure I've got that clip in here somewhere. Maybe I'll just play them all. This one amuses me constantly.
He thinks he looks good in a bathing suit. He doesn't.
That's the thing about him. He's funny without meaning to be. It's the opposite of a comedian who can be funny without any material. He doesn't have any material, but he's funny anyway. Like funny weird.
Don't be rude.
Yeah, sorry, Donnie. I'm finding it very difficult not to be. Caroline texts, so white nationalists can attack the police with impunity, but if you're black or brown, you're perceived to be a violent, radicalised immigrant. Get the army out to stop these thugs. It cannot continue, says Caroline. Simon texts on a theme. We want our country backwards. We're getting there. Jeff says, Farage can't be Prime Minister. Couldn't happen. 2 words. Liz Truss. Anything is possible. You've been warned, says Jeff.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. One of the funniest things this week was her on TV, standing next to some bloke at the races. I imagine he was a trainer. I've got no idea. I don't know from horses. And the interview was, they were on TV. And the interviewer was talking to the bloke about horses. And you were dimly aware that the woman next to him was sort of standing there, like swaying with her mouth open. Just looking at the interviewer as though begging to be asked a question. And she had this sort of gormless smile on her face. Mouth agape, just wanting to be noticed. And at the end of the interview, you looked over and thought, behind those stupidly huge sunglasses, is that Liz Truss?
I'm genuinely unclear.
She may have been unclear. She looked very unclear from the pictures, as though she'd been, recently stunned. But it was. And the interviewer had no idea. Used to be the Prime Minister of this country, Liz. Ain't that terrible?
That is a disgrace.
It is a disgrace, yeah. And on that shocking note, that's it. Thanks for all the texts and the tweets, particularly the ones I didn't read. If I get the time, I'll do them tonight. But if you missed any of tonight's show, it is available as a podcast on the World Wide Web. It's on Global Player. It's called Nick Abbot, The Whole Show Podcast. We take the news and the ads out. I think you'll love it. 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 I think